Okay, if you want to just state your name,
Sure, Mark Neal. Mark Neal.
we're good to go.
All right.
Okay, let's start. Tell us a little, introduce yourself and tell me about Project Inspire.
Sure. My name's Mark Neal. I serve as the director of Project Inspire. Project Inspire's been working with NCTR now for 5 years, going into our 6th year of actually having residents, and I guess a few years before that of work to launch the residency. Project Inspire is a bit unique, I think, within NCTR. We're a STEM only residency, so particularly focused on training secondary math and science teachers. We sort of like to think that it's almost really one of the toughest pitches within our work, to bring folks from math and science into some of the more challenging environments to teach where they're needed. That is the biggest need in our district, to get those great math and science teachers. And the mission's simple, but I think we just put the math and science spin on it, right? Access to a great math science teacher should not depend upon your zip code. And we say that we'll go away when that issue is resolved. I think what folks hear a lot is nationally is about this, need for math and science teachers. But I think the extra piece we want to put behind that NCTR has really helped with is preparation, right? So, sure, there's some big numbers, some big gaps out there that we have to fill, but let's do so with quality preparation, and not offer hurry-up options, right, that just get bodies into rooms.
Tell me who the partners in Project Inspire, the teacher residency for Project Inspire. Tell me who your partners are.
Sure. The partners at Project Inspire, Tennessee Technological University, has a good history of training math and science teachers there in Tennessee. And the Public Education Foundation kind of serves as the hub for the work, where much of the staff sits. And then our school district partner is Hamilton County, or really Chattanooga Schools, but called Hamilton County Schools.
And you've done a number of engagements with NCTR over the past 5
Sure.
years. Describe your involvement with the network inquiry cycle this year.
Sure. The network inquiry cycle is an opportunity for us to really, we feel like, work alongside other programs on exactly some of the same questions that we're very interested in. For a big one, I think this year that stuck out to us has been this notion of student engagement. A real tricky buzzword in the work that we do, something that we often say in these residents that we have, right, that have not been in education, are a little confused by what this is, how do we measure it, how do I know when I'm seeing it? And it's just been so beneficial for us to see the different ways that programs represent and measure a term like engagement. And it's just something that we take for granted in education, all these different buzzwords. And so that, I think, is one of our favorite parts of working with NCTR is this, the way in which you all allow and foster diversity around what we know are core practices and core things that work for kids in terms of learning. But NCTR honors that there are a million different ways to do that in different contexts in different cities. And so the network inquiry really pushes us. I feel like it's a chance to run with the big dogs and push ourselves and see how far we can stretch in terms of the programming that we offer. It's raised some important questions, I think, this year. There are groups within this cycle that are talking about current events and issues, such as what we're seeing in Baltimore and in Ferguson, and how this impacts our residents, and how can we bring our current world into the curriculum, because we understand that the classroom is a place where this plays out. So that's an extra piece, that just opportunity to hear what's on the mind of someone in San Francisco or Seattle or Richmond, and just have a conversation about how we can open that up to residents and help them to make those changes.
What does being part of the network mean to you? So beyond the inquiry cycle this year, tell me a little bit about what being part of the the NCTR network has done for Project Inspire and for your team.
Sure. Being a part of the network gives us a standard to which we should define our program. And I think that being within, typically the residencies are this three-part partnership that historically have had some different views on how to prepare teachers. So, you have your colleges of education with, one sort of slant on the work, one way to go about it, perhaps known as being more theoretical in their history. You have your school districts that have a different view. You have these nonprofits looking in from the outside with different views. It has just been critical to our survival to have NCTR there to define what the standard of operating a teacher residency is, a high standard that's going to prepare a great teacher no matter where you are. And I think you all also have provided great insight on the process for launching a residency, and the network brings us back to those core principles, those standards around which we launched the residency, and just to keep checking in and to have that voice to remind us of, this is what you're committed to do, and to bring those three partners together in a way that really works for us. And so we find that the more that we come back to, sort of those national standards for a residency, the more our work moves forward, and the more we find consensus, and our partnership is stronger.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was the other subject you wanted to talk about?
The work you guys did, you came down this year and really helped us with selection. It's just an example of what I was just talking about. So and I think many programs, and another part of what's really important about working with NCTR is I think we're asking the question of who should be a teacher and who can be a teacher. And I think this is a pretty profound question that we need to address as a nation. I think there's a pretty standard personality type that we've identified as a teacher, and that's shifting through the work that NCTR is leading, particularly as we look at students living in poverty. We talk about, and students of color, having a different face that is perhaps more connected to their experiences in the classroom. So that is pushing on how we recruit and really recruit teachers. And so we asked for some help this year in defining what makes a successful candidate, a successful graduate of our program in this context in Chattanooga. And so NCTR really helped us to connect to some research that you guys have put together for other programs in terms of recruitment, and then brought our team together and really helped us agree on a shared vision of what we want in a candidate. We nailed that down to really 5 core traits that we're looking for, and I think we hope that was beneficial both to the network as well, but very beneficial to us. So we now feel like we have a much stronger view of who we're looking for, and I think a bigger impact of that might be that our school district partner through this process is really being pushed to think about now what do they look for in their hiring of teachers. So that's a real hope of ours, that as we in this little small sandbox with recruitment think differently, particularly for us, STEM thinkers aren't typically in line with your teacher types. So we're really trying to carve out some space for them. And it's been successful so far. We had a great recruiting year based on using the competencies that NCTR helped us to identify.
Let's go back to kind of the origin of the program.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to keep you lifeline. So, Project Inspire sought to impact Hamilton County schools, or what made you think about a data point from Hamilton County that was kind of at the origin of launching the program? So
Sure.
the residency was designed to address.
Sure. Math classrooms with uncertified teachers and long-term subs When this work started in Chattanooga, there were numerous secondary math classrooms that where students were beginning the year with a teacher that was not certified, a long-term sub. One of those situations where the kids were pretty clear that this teacher was not the one that they needed. And the number was somewhere in the range of 8 to 10 classrooms in any given year would be starting in the situation. So recently, our district partner shared with us that number is now down to 0. So that is a significant number of students, that now have a highly qualified and we believe effective teacher in that classroom. We even have evidence showing effective. Some initial. We're in our 5th year, so still, developing a larger pool of teachers. But at this point, our evidence shows that our graduates are outperforming those from traditional teacher preparation programs within similar settings in our district. But I think more importantly that having that qualified teacher is huge for kids in our district. So